G'day, Hugh here from videsign.com.au, a design company based on the Gold Coast in Australia. Thank you for joining me. Now, I put up a lot of tutorials on how you can use Photoshop to improve your photographs, and I tend to stick to the more basic methods because Photoshop can be quite complex in many respects. Now, a lot of people also use Lightroom, and I thought I'd show you how, with a few 4 or 5 very simple methods in Lightroom, you can improve your photos, and then down the track you can learn the more advanced features and apply them as well. But the basic features in Lightroom are really simple to use and can improve your photos dramatically. So let's get into Lightroom and see how that's done. Okay, so this is basically a beginner's tutorial for Lightroom and some very basic steps you can do to improve a photo. So simple that you could do it on every photo you take and improve it dramatically. So what we just want to concentrate on is this basic develop panel here, which has exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, clarity, vibrance and saturation. Now the first thing you should always do is bring your highlights down, and what this does is reveal a lot more detail in the darker areas. See how the sky gets washed out all the way at the other end. So if you bring the highlights all the way down, but conversely the shadows all the way up, it creates a good contrast between the shadows and the highlights. So that's what it looked like before, that's what it looks like after. Now if you were to hold down the Alt key and slide the whites to the right and look at the image until you see some red appear. So we keep going right up until we see a little speck of red, there you go, and then we come backwards till it's just disappeared. So that's added in the whites to a point where they're not overexposed. You can do the same with the blacks in the other direction, but as you can see the blacks are already very dark, so we don't really need to do anything more with them. Then you can play with your exposure. So this is quite underexposed, so we need to bring the exposure up, which starts to provide detail. It's always better to be underexposed than overexposed, for sure, because you can adjust the exposure here, and you don't lose detail by having overexposed your image. I mean, it's very difficult to get it back, so we can just bring that exposure back a little. So you can see now we're really starting to cook with gas. So I like to bring the clarity up to really give a lot of detail and add a bit to vibrance. And if we do that, that are the basic adjustments. Really just concentrating on these and nothing else in Lightroom. If you're an absolute beginner and want to get started making your photos look better, of course always shoot in RAW, because this gives you the chance to really work with these parts of the image. Now we could also play with the white balance. It's as shot. If we were to go to say cloudy, it would warm it up a little bit. If we were to go to daylight, it cools it a bit. We could have auto, it gives it a bit of a green and yellow, or as shot is which we have it on at the moment, and we can adjust the white balance incrementally if we wanted to. But there you have some very basic beginners Lightroom tips to improve your photos just by looking at the highlights and the shadows, the whites and blacks, add a bit of clarity and vibrance, and improve the exposure. So that's pretty straightforward. I hope if you've got photos and you just want to quickly improve them to begin with, and then down the track learn more advanced ways of improving your photos, that's a great way to start. So until next time, I'll see you later.